back to Block TV. For the vast majority of crypto users, the use of wallets to store their assets is a source of great confusion and innumerable headaches. So much so that a large number of crypto enthusiasts opt to simply not use them and instead keep their assets on exchanges, trusting that these often unregulated firms will do the right thing. Our next guest is looking to change that, and we speak now with ZenGo CEO Oriel Ohayon about some of the latest developments in the digital finance sector and what ZenGo has been up to lately. Oriel, pleasure to have you back on the show.
Pleasure to be here.
All right, Oriel, let's get straight into things. You guys have had some pretty big changes and developments in recent times. Talk us through what you're doing, and I believe you've got a little demonstration you can show us.
So yeah, ZenGo is, thanks for having me. It's a crypto wallet that we launched a few months ago. Now it's available on iOS and Android, so it's only on mobile. And the particularity of that wallet is that it's extremely simple to use for anyone who wants to buy, send, receive, and from now even earn on their crypto assets on all sorts of blockchains and not just on Bitcoin or Ethereum. So we just launched the saving plans, the saving mode on crypto, and it's a new way to earn on your crypto assets without doing nearly anything.
All right, and I believe you've got a little demonstration of the latest developments that you'll be able to show us here.
Sure, of course. So as you can see from one of the headline is not going to cover, we have ZenGo at the bottom right. And so I'm opening it with my face. So here we are already in the action, meaning that we have set up an account. Traditionally, when you set up a wallet, it's very complicated, it's very tedious. There are multiple security steps, password, complicated management, all of that. In ZenGo, there is no password. You set it up in a few seconds, and you arrive to your wallet, and as you can see, you can manage already all sorts of assets which you can send and receive and buy and purchase with your credit card. So here, as you can see, we have some Bitcoin, we have some Ethereum, we have some Tezos, we have some USDC coin, and some DAI. So what we have just launched, and this is important to remember, ZenGo does not have the custody of the funds. So they are always in the control of the users. The funds are on chain, unlike exchanges that you refer to. So we just launched the second button here at the bottom, which is called Savings. The first time you will arrive, you will see something like that. It will tell you that we provide high rates of return on your assets, that the interest are compounding from the first second that you start to trigger and confirm that you want to participate in it, and that there is no lockup. Very important, you can withdraw at any moment without any commitment. So when you arrive here, you see all the assets that are eligible for saving rates, and pay attention, the APR, the return, the annual return, are actually pretty high. If you compare that to typical banking returns, there are multiples, right? Typically 0 point something in a bank. Here on DAI, which is a stable coin on dollar, it's plus 8%. On USDC, which is a stable coin in US dollar, also 4.5%. On Tezos, nearly 6%. So it's very, very high. And we will see how we can do that in just a few taps. The other thing to remember that we're doing is what also an innovation, is that we're not doing just on Ethereum and Ethereum assets, which are traditionally eligible for savings, but we're doing it also on Tezos blockchain. So we're putting in one single screen all the assets that matter. So let's deep dive into how you do that, right? So here I'm in a USDC coin, right? So it's a digital dollar. I have already the plan which is activated, but you're going to understand immediately how it works. You have some funds in your wallet. You want to drop them into your saving modes. You have here a sort of wheel, right? So pay attention to the wheel. The way the wheel is moving, like clockwise and counterclockwise. But you can see you can decide how much of your funds you want to put there. So let's assume I want to put 90% of my funds into saving modes. Pay attention, the APR here is presented 4.25%, and your savings or your estimated savings is presented here in the middle of the wheel. It's dynamically changing based, of course, on the quantity that you want to put. So you arrive here, and all you have to do is to press a button. You press confirm. You validate that with your face, which is a security mechanism. And in a few seconds, it will be sent to the blockchain, to the smart contract of a protocol called Compound, and your saving modes will be, that's it, ready to grow. 90% of your USDC is now in savings, right? So you come back to the main screen, you see that the transaction is pending, because this is like that on the blockchain. You have to wait that the confirmation happens. And if you come back once we will do it, once it's confirmed, you will see that the wheel and the interest is starting to pay off immediately.
And
That's simple.
And you could then adjust if you wanted to down.
Of course.
If you decided to change your mind and needed access to some of those funds, you could trade it down from 90% to say 80%.
To 80%, or you can withdraw anything, or you can even like add more. So you can go to the buy section, buy more USDC, and put them into work. And as you saw, it's very, very simple. So there is very little effort to do. And behind the scene, there is an entire mechanic simplifying all the complexity that's usually called in DeFi, decentralized finance.
So as well, another point I want to touch on there, I noticed it was the current rate for USDC, it was 4.25% APR, variable rate. How often are those rates changed? What's the sort of compounding periods that we're looking at for?
So they're pretty much stable in their return. They're always in the same range, but they can change every day. So this is not something that is guaranteed, but you have nothing to lose, I was about to say, because this is just on top of your deposit. So the returns varies based on the assets that you want to save. It depends also on the logic. So on Ethereum-based assets, it's a sort of loaning and borrowing logical that makes these rates possible. On Tezos, it's different. It's staking, which is participating in the security protocol of the blockchain. So the logic of how it works also is very different, but very important, the assets are always liquid. You can always withdraw them. The rates are variable, so there's no guarantee, but there is also guarantees in terms of how much your funds will be available if you want to withdraw them, so that you don't get into a situation where you're locked out of your funds.
And I want to take this conversation now to sort of the wider market as a whole for this sort of passive savings mechanisms out there, because there are other competitors in the field that exist out there, and I want to see your views on their points of differentiation. Namely, if you look at, say, BlockFi and Celsius Network, they're offering, on the face value, similar things, but I imagine you would see differences, and I wonder what you think.
So there are major differences. The first one is this can be done anywhere in the world without having to provide any sort of KYC or documentation to participate into the protocol, right? So when you sign up to centralized services like BlockFi and Celsius and others, you have to go through a sign-up process, and you have to wait that this process is validated. You can be declined, and it's not available in all the countries. So here we're available everywhere without process. The second important thing is we do not have the custody of the funds. When you give your funds to BlockFi, to a centralized service, you give them the custody of your funds, so there is a systemic risk about how your funds, so they have insurance, but it's only fractional, very fractional on what they have. And here the funds are on-chain and in your control. And the smart contract behind it guarantees that you have access to your funds. So this is a second major difference. The third major difference is the extreme simplicity. There is no even remotely close option that is that simple on the market today. Not from those or not from any other player, and we sweat the detail to make sure that anyone could participate or could enjoy those. So we call that delightful finance. We don't call it decentralized finance.
Now, I would say, I mean, you're focused on smart contract backing, on DeFi technology backing. Up until now, would have been seen as a very rock hard sort of secure element. That being said, with the recent BZX scandal and the sort of things that went on around that, put a bit of a taint on some elements of DeFi. Obviously, the industry as a whole is still generally seeing growth, but does that have any concern for you now at ZenGo utilizing that technology and for your customer base? Yeah.
So the risk that you evoke is a market manipulation risk. And so BZX, which is a different company, different protocol, which we do not use, was part of a scheme of investment which was extremely smart, extremely elaborate, and did not involve a security risk per se, but more like a market manipulation risk. This is a risk that does not exist per se in the protocol that we're using, which is Compound. It doesn't mean that there is no risk. There are always risks. The main risk with Compound is that there is the default of payment, meaning that you're lending your funds, right, and somehow someone does not pay you back. It is mitigated by the fact that in front of the funds that you're putting, someone that borrows those funds is going to put a collateral that is superior to the amount of funds that you are putting, so that even if you cannot pay back, the money comes back somehow. In Tezos, it's different. The funds never leave your wallet, never ever. which is different, by the way, with the actors you mentioned. So they never leave your wallet. They never go to anyone else. They're always on your wallet. And so it's part of the protocol that is rewarding you for participating in a security mechanism. And so the risk here is very, very minor.
All right. It sounds like you've got a lot of different bases there covered. Auriel, as well, just people can now download the app and access this savings mechanism as it stands right now?
It's immediately available anywhere worldwide. We serve 70 countries with very happy customers all over. Numbers are growing very fast right now. So you just go to zengo.com, you create an account in a few seconds, and you can save in, as you saw, in a matter of single-digit seconds.
All right, fascinating stuff. Auriel, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us here today and explain this new product here at BLOCKTV. Always interested to see what's going on around the crypto space. So make sure you stay watching at blocktv.com for all the latest news and information. I'm westropp-evans. Thanks for watching.
Watch us on Amazon Fire TV and Roku.